And the one person that was not satisfied is because I told them their ex wasn't coming back. And I was like, please specify beyond you're unhappy with the message, like why else you weren't happy, and they just never responded.
Hi guys, welcome back to Alfa Bella y Mística. I hope you guys are doing amazing. Today we have a very special guest, someone from our personal community. We have Jen.
Hi, my name is Gen Kahlo. I live and record my podcast, Jen Explains, in Merced. And this is the first podcast where I am a guest. So thank you so much. It's such an honor.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to get into certain topics, a little bit about yourself. What do you do? How involved you're in the community, specifically like the 209, right?
Yeah. So a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Los Angeles. And then for college, I went to Cal State Long Beach. Then I met my wonderful partner and husband, David, who is originally from the 805, which is like the Santa Maria area, San Luis Obispo area. Do you know where that is?
Yes.
Yeah.
We like to go there all the time.
It is paradise.
Yeah.
So we lived there for 5 years, and then COVID hit and rents were skyrocketing. And we were like, this has got to be a house somewhere. And it was really tragic. We did the calculations. We were like, in the 4 or 5 years that we've been renting here, how much have we paid in rent? And it was $100,000.
Oh my God.
I was like, and that's not even equity coming back to us. So we're like, this has got to be a mortgage somewhere. And by fate and luck, if you believe in it, David accidentally scrolled too far out. We put everything that we wanted in our wish list on Zillow, like this many bedrooms, this many bathrooms built this year or later. And we weren't finding anything. He zoomed out too far and we saw a cluster of red dots. And we were like, where's that? And it was Merced. And we're like, we've never been to Merced. I've only heard of UC Merced, but let's take a road trip. So we took a road trip and we did a 3-part test. We were like, you could tell a lot about a city by its Walmart, its Target, and its 7-Eleven. So I think we went on a really good day because everyone was so nice. We were like, this place is amazing. It's so nice. The food was incredible. And we were like, yeah, let's look at homes. And we're like, well, we'll just do this as a practice run because we've never been homeowners before. So whatever.
Yeah.
We submitted the offer and then they called us and said, everyone in front of you was no longer interested or no longer ready.
Wow.
Do you want this house? And we were like, yes. And so we moved not knowing anybody, not having jobs. And so people are like, do you have family here? We're like, nope. We just took a chance. And 5 years later, we're here, we're happy, we're grounded, and we're part of the community. So that's how we got to the 209.
Wow, amazing. You know, like you said, I believe you're meant to be where you're meant to be. You know, you open a door and there's many opportunities to that door, right? And you guys been doing really good here, right? Like,
Yeah, so a little bit about me. During the day, I work with victims of crime, specifically through a nonprofit law firm, but I'm not an attorney. So when I say that, people are like, oh, are you a lawyer?
Yeah.
No. So basically, I teach lawyers how to be trauma informed, and I also manage advocates that are holistic helpers is the best way to put it. So yeah, I teach people how to be empathetic and how to be a little more human with trauma victims and how to handle them with care. And then 24/7, I am an astrologer, a tarot reader, an occultist, all of these spiritual things. And yeah, I've been practicing since the day that I bought my first tarot deck, May 31st, 2019. So I just celebrated 7 years as a practitioner.
wow, congrats. Amazing. What do you think got you into practicing spirituality in a sense, right?
So as a child, I always had these like weird feelings and like I could receive messages or I knew when things were going to happen. So before Ring cameras were a thing, would sometimes just get this burning sensation of like, I need to open the door right now. And I would open the door and someone's like mid knock. They're like, oh, how did you know I was here? Or I would be like, I don't know why. I just need to call my friend. And I call them and they're like, I was literally dialing your number. So there were a lot of things that I couldn't explain. My mom, when I was young, claimed that like I would talk to a little plant in the corner and like explain things and say messages. And she's like, I don't understand how this is happening. From her point of view, because I was raised Catholic, it's like, oh, God gave you these gifts. So that's how she explained it. And later, when I started going to church a little bit more, to backtrack, when I was younger, one, I love seeing Walter Mercado on TV, the astrologer. I was like, oh, he's so fabulous. But then two, because I was raised Catholic, I wanted to be a priest. I was like, that is such a cool job. You get to help people sort of like alleviate their soul, to do the whole like making the communion into Jesus's body and blood, like that transmutation, that alchemy. I was like, that is so fascinating and I want to be of service. But because I was born a woman, I could not do that. So then I looked into the nun route, and they're basically just glorified helpers. Sorry, nuns, but like they're not the same role as a priest. And so I was like, oh man, I guess I'm not going to be doing this. But eventually I just shut everything out for a long time, because when I was a kid, I was always the kid that asked why. Like, why? Where does this come from? Why? I was too smart for my own good. And I was just told, shut up and believe.
Exactly.
And I was like, I'm not satisfied with that. So then I became a hardcore atheist, and I tried almost every religion and pushed it to its limits. And I was like, if they can't handle me asking why, or if they can't give me a good answer, then I know I stress test it to the point of breaking. My final venture was astrology. I was like, let me stress test this to the limit and see if I can call bullshit on it. But astrology is it's not a religion. It's like a mix between a belief system and a science, but it's the only thing I've stress tested that has never been angry at me for asking why, that can be double checked mathematically. And all my mentors can point me back to things from like ancient Mesopotamia. They're like, yeah, there are texts that explain like why. For example, when Uranus moves to Gemini, which happens only like once every 84 years, like there's always been some sort of war, some sort of conflict, global recession, etc. And if you do the math, you see the patterns. And so I went from a hardcore skeptic being like, yeah, let me break astrology, let me prove it wrong, to being like, oh shit, I love this.
Wow. That's such an interesting like journey. I can totally relate to you. Do you think you had like any elders that guided you to where you are now? Or was it more a personal learning and experience?
Yeah, I didn't really meet any people out in the wild that could necessarily guide me like that. I will say, for my tarot journey, I was working at a little place in Santa Maria, which is in northern Santa Barbara County. And we were literally like a minute walk from a witchy shop that had like tarot decks, crystals, candles, all that fun stuff. So during my break, I was like, I could totally run there and run back, because my final sort of straw where I was like, there has to be something to this, was a delivery driver was going to knock on the door, and we didn't have any ring cameras or anything. And I opened the door and he's like, whoa, how did you know I was here? And I was like, I wonder if I could take these feelings, these premonitions, and actually control them, because beforehand I could never control it. It was random. It's just like, I have this feeling and I can't explain it. Or even like if I got a raffle ticket, I'm like, I know I'm going to get called. And then I get called. So I was like, I wonder if instead of it happening to me, if I can control it. So I was like, okay, let me try via tarot, while I was also on my astrology journey of like stress testing astrology. So I went into this witchy shop and I picked up this beautiful goddess deck. It was like golden and extra because I'm a Leo and I was attracted to it. And the practitioner working at the shop, he was like, I could sell you this $80 deck and make more money off of you, But ethically, faithfully, I cannot do that to you. If you're gonna go on a tarot journey, you need to start with the OG, the Rider-Waite-Smith. And from there, all of the like beautiful tarot decks, they are inspired from it. So you need to learn like the OG, the source material, and then you can go to like all the beautiful cutesy decks. And it was $20 instead of $80. And to this day with my clients, unless it's a special occasion, that's what I use, my Rider-Waite-Smith.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like I get that thing that you're saying, like you started to have intuition, right? A lot of us, I think anyone can have intuition, right? It's like any other practice. You have to start as a baby, drink milk, and then from there on you begin to have that knowledge, the practice over the years. But yeah, that was why I was asking a little bit about.
Yeah, so I didn't have any elders in the community, but I did have elders online. I went to a lot of workshops. I watched a lot of great like videos. I read a lot of books and articles. And also when you get a tarot deck, they have like basic definitions. So I studied that. And I'm a very heavy math and sciences person. Despite the witchy persona, people think I'm like anti-science. And it's like, I was waitlisted for a PhD. So I applied to get a PhD back when I was in the rat race, thinking that's what I was going to do. And I was number 6 for a program at USC. I was number 8, and they only had 6 spots. So they waitlisted me, which means like if 2 other people choose to go somewhere else and not accept our offer, we'll take you on. But all 6 immediately said yes. So eventually they were like, sorry, not right now. But then I realized I don't want to do academia anyway. It's fine. But yeah, I didn't really have any elders in the community guiding me like IRL, but eventually I made a lot of connections online. I started with Eliza Kelly's Constellation Club. Then I took workshops with the tarot lady, Teresa Reed. Eventually I took like a really intense mentorship with Catherine Urban. I still take workshops with Annabelle Gatt, and just personal practice. Oh, and then shout out to the Astrology podcast, Chris Brennan. He is amazing. He's like one of the most, like if you could get a PhD in astrology, like that's your guy. Like he is so academic, intense, has a lot of integrity. But anyway, yes. So I studied a lot under them, sort of mishmashing, but Chris Brennan does have a great quote. He's like, after 4 years of intense study, there is nothing else that you can learn from a book. At that point, you have to start practicing. And of course, like continuing education is always important. You never want to stop learning. But after a while, I was like, okay, let me practice with people. But I have a lot of imposter syndrome that I've had to overcome in my life. And I was like, let me do 100 free readings and give myself a grade. So I didn't tell people in my circle I'm doing this. I would just post on Instagram, #free readings, and people would find me, complete strangers. And I'm like, that's the point. I want people that aren't afraid to hurt my feelings. If it sucked, be like, you suck. So I told them, yes, I'll do this free tarot reading, this free astrology reading for you. But in exchange, you genuinely have to tell me like what you thought of it. And, the 100 people said, okay. And 99 out of 100 were satisfied. And the one person that was not satisfied is because I told them their ex wasn't coming back. And I was like, please specify beyond you're unhappy with the message, like why else you weren't happy. And they just never responded. So then I was like, okay, I could start charging a little bit and then a little bit more and a little bit more. And that's how we got here.
That's amazing. That's very encouraging for myself. Yeah. You said that you do tarot, right?
I do tarot, I do astrology, spell work. So we started Kythera Collective, very similar to your point, like who guided you? For a lot of things, like for example, with the social work stuff that I do during the day, I went through some things where it's like I could have had a social worker or just like a caring human in my corner, and I didn't. Or I did, but not to the same extent of like what I would have wanted. Similarly with these occult practices, it's like I didn't really have anybody to learn from that was accessible, affordable, etc., which is why we started our company, Kythera Collective LLC. So we focus on obviously the witchy stuff, but then we also do podcast and content creation consulting because I want to be that person that I wish I had at all those different stages. So I provide, readings, whether it's for fun, for reflection, for goal setting, whatever. But then I also teach classes specifically through my Patreon. So I have a Patreon community of people that want to get my exclusive horoscopes that I post, that I don't post, anywhere else. I do post like one as a teaser on Instagram or TikTok, but then the rest you have to find on Patreon. So that is our lowest level, our chocolate level. Then our café level, we have a private Discord community where, it's safe to chat about whatever you want with like-minded people. But then I also do once a month, either workshops or hangouts. So, and that's only $7 a month. So $7 a month for a whole workshop, I think is pretty affordable, and I try to be affordable. Then finally, we have our tequila level for people that are like, I am committed to a more long-term journey, and they get my best prices for my readings and my consultations. And sometimes people stay for 3 months. Sometimes people stay for, 2 years. Sometimes people don't leave because they like having that monthly check-in at the best price point. But people can still hire me a la carte, if you will, just like on demand, like, hey, I want a reading this Saturday, or I want to hire you for my bachelorette party, for my wedding. And similarly with the content creation through the Patreon, people can also book David. They can also book him a la carte similarly to me, but through our Patreon is the best price point. But I have also started expanding in person. So sometimes I'll host workshops in the community. Those are more expensive than through my Patreon because I have to like pay someone else to co-host with me, pay for the rental space versus like on Zoom. But I am starting to host more workshops. And funny enough, I do want my next workshop to be a Tarot 101 workshop. But it's a heavy lift because I want to do it with integrity and with as much information as possible. So because of that, I'm taking my time creating the materials. But you'll see it on my socials when it's out.
Yeah, I'll be looking out for that. Now that you're talking a little bit about what you do you think there's general ethics to the work you do?
Absolutely. Yes, we have been talking about this both as podcasters and then as occult practitioners, but sometimes, especially in the era of like TikTok, Instagram, social media, internet saturation, people see that and they think, oh, it's easy. They don't do shit and they get paid a bunch of money. So sometimes people go in with the intention of like making money and getting rich off of people. And it's like, if you do that, one, it's not going to work. And two, you have to start for the love of the game because you don't get rich off of this. You truly have to be of service. So I did take an apprentice, and she did have a pure heart. She wanted to do things for the right reasons, quote unquote. She was like, I truly love this. I would do it for free, but I want to see if it could be a little bit of income. And she was like, I didn't realize how many people are vulnerable and grieving. And I feel weird about that. Like, I only want to do business with people that are like already, put together, like they want astrology for their business. And it's like, even if someone is a business owner, they're still going to come to you with like really vulnerable questions. So you have to know how to handle that with care. And that's where I think I'm very unique because I have this like trauma social worker background. And then I have this mystical part. So sometimes people do come to me and they're like, I want a reading because I'm in a domestic violence situation and I want to know how to get out of it. Or I've even had people come to me and they're like, I want to do a reading to know if I should kill myself. And when people say things like that, I'm not going to take your money. And I can do a reading on like your strengths and what you have to look forward to, but nobody should end their life. Like we're not touching that subject. And obviously you're in a crisis. I know my limits. I know I'm not a replacement for a doctor, a therapist, a financial advisor, a lawyer, etc. So you have to know how to toe that fine line. And again, because I see the underbelly of society. I work with victims of violent crime. I'm used to hearing atrocious things, but if you've never had that experience before, it could be interesting to see like, wow, these people are so vulnerable and people live so many different lives. And we all have trauma, little t trauma, big T trauma. And some people may not know how to handle that. So I think if you're going to be a practitioner and if you don't happen to have a social work background, you definitely need to take some sort of ethics course for sure.
Yeah. Are there any personal ethics that you have?
Oh, yes. So things that are not necessarily like taught, but that I believe in, like for myself, is unless you are part of the situation, I am not doing the reading. So if you wanted to know, like, my friend and her boyfriend, like, I want to know what's going on in their relationship, when they're going to break up, or like, why are my neighbors always arguing? Like, I want to know the tea. I try to like peek and I never know what's going on. Unless you're part of the situation, it's not your business, is my hard line. Where I see this the most sometimes is with parents, especially parents of older children, like teenagers or adults. And they're like, I want to know when my daughter, is going to get married. And it's like, that's not your business, because you're not getting married to her. You are not part of the situation. But if you're in a relationship with someone, if it's like, I want to know what my partner needs from me the most, because you're talking about the relationship, you are part of that relationship. Yes, I could do that reading for you. So that's my personal ethics.
Very interesting. I was listening to one of your episodes on your podcast where you did mention about like, some people do it for the wrong reasons. Like online, specifically TikTok, or they're just, oh, I'll throw a card and then you give me $5 type of energy. But there was your co-host, your husband, right? I love the dynamic. You know why? Me and my husband are the same way. He's like, hey, babe, I bought a ticket for a raffle. Can you manifest? I'm like, so you want me to do the work? But one thing your husband mentioned, it was like, yeah, we want to make money. But you're like, hey, yes, we want to make money, but realistically, what's the reason behind it? I was like, that is so real. I feel like a lot of people, like you said, expect things for free, or kind of like, we're at the end of the day, yes, practitioners, but we still have bills to pay. We still have, realistically, there's a balance between both, right? And ethically speaking, for my personal self, I would say like, oh, love, light, healing, right? For the general good. Would you say there's a balance between like just doing it for good?
So yes, I think that part of ethics, boundaries, self-care is also respecting yourself, respecting your time, respecting your energy. And if at a certain point you need to charge, like, that's okay. There's a difference between I'm respecting my time, the amount of experience I have, and then if you have some sort of business structure, like the bills I have to pay, versus I'm trying to grift people and make a fuck ton of money. Or sorry, I didn't ask if I could curse. There's a difference between trying to grift people and be like, I'm trying to make a buttload of money off of them. So yeah, I think there is that ethical dynamic, but then I also see a lot of people that just give without asking for anything in return, and then they get burnt out, they get resentful, and they're like, I can't do this. People only take, and it's not low vibration. It's not bad to put up boundaries. Like, a lot of people, when they first go into this witchy space, they think love and light, like, I can't even do self-defense. It's like boundaries, self-defense, all of that are critical because you are tapping into so much energy. Self-respect is absolutely essential.
Now that you're talking a little bit about like, the balance, that's where I was a little bit going towards. There's another of your episodes where you're talking about cursing, and that was the kind of the point where I was like, I like her. Because you're like, I'm usually like chill, I don't like to mess with people, but the moment you come into my family or my finances, then you kind of protect yourself. And I'm like, okay, I'm like that. I'm not the type to, like, if someone cuts me off, I'm going to curse you or like close your path or all that sense. But the moment that I feel your energy on me consistently, I'm going to be like, you know what? I have boundaries too.
What is a curse and what is a return to sender? I think that is the question. Yes. And I do return to senders or I do banishing spells. So banishing spells is like you're messing with me and I don't want you to mess with me anymore. I just want you to be on your merry way and stop messing with my stuff, messing with my family, etc. I'll do like a banishing spell. But that's like going to your door and locking it. It's like you can't come in anymore. Yeah. And then I don't so I'm going to call curse a general manifestation of a practice that has bad consequences for the person on the other side. However, I always return their energy. It's like, if you didn't do something to me, then you don't have anything to worry about because I'm just sending your energy back. So like you said, if someone cuts me off in traffic, if someone just says something dumb one time, it's really not worth the energy. Just brush it off. But yeah, if it's something more nefarious, I think you absolutely should defend yourself.
Yeah, that's a big key point to like my ethical perspective. Like I see a lot of people online teaching how to like, oh, how to curse someone, how to manipulate someone. That's another thing that I'm like, I will not deal with manipulation.
There's a movie called Obsession right now. I don't know if you've seen it.
Heard about it, but I haven't seen.
It is a love spell gone wrong, which is also why I don't do love spells. Like, make this person that is not interested in me love me, because it's like, don't mess with people's free will. A, I don't think it would work, honestly. But B, like, don't mess with people's free will. When people are like, I want to get booed up, or I just want to improve my life. It's like, do an attraction, glamour magic type thing so that you're in the right place, right time, and people look at you and they're like, oh, they're pretty cute. Or do a sweetening spell where it's like, I'm already in a relationship with this person. We're just going through a tough time. So that's the difference. Instead of like in Spanish, we call it amarros. Yeah. You know what that is? So it's basically like binding someone or forcing someone to do something. But the thing with amarros is you have to keep it up. If you don't maintain it, then it goes away and the person then snaps out of it, supposedly, and it's like, what am I doing here? And then they leave. Whether it works or not, I'm not going to debate that, but ultimately it's your intention. Yes. So something that we're really big on is what's called internal locus of control versus external locus of control. I think that's also what makes me a modern practitioner versus like a traditional practitioner, because traditional practitioners truly believed in like the gods or God, fate. Like, you can't change your luck. Your life is predetermined. So it's like life is happening to me, versus internal locus of control, which I'm really big on, is I control my life to a certain extent. Astrology is really like, I would call it a weather system. So I tell people, if you want to barbecue in the rain, yeah, you can absolutely do it. You have to get a big pop-up tent and you have to make sure that the rain doesn't blow diagonally. But if you really want to barbecue in the rain, you could do it. It's just going to be more difficult. So that's really what astrology is. I could be like, things may be easier if you're trying to do XYZ goal right now, or things may be harder. But if you want to do something, I'm not going to stop you.
So, going off of that, what do you think about like, as cliche as it sounds, like alignment versus like manifestation or trying to take control with your own hands?
Like forcing something that doesn't fit in your life right now?
Or, manipulating energy to work in your favor, whether or just allowing things to align as people say they're predestined to be.
Yeah. I think if you put your mind to something and it's like, I'm really trying, but it's depleting all my energy, it's just so exhausting, I don't even want this anymore. That's when you realize it's not aligned. Could you do it? Absolutely, because I believe in you. But should you do it? If it's so depleting, then it's like, this just isn't worth it. So I think that's how you can tell what is meant for you and what is not. Does it bring you joy? Does it bring you happiness? Does it add to your life versus subtract from your life?
That's very interesting, your viewpoint. Like my fiance, he's seen, I like to practice manifestation, for my own personal life, career. Like I said, there's boundaries of like what I practice. But if he's seen my fruit and he's like, well, how come you can't manifest the lottery for me?
Oh my God.
And I'm like, okay, you don't see the work that goes behind, manifesting. It's not just, oh, I'm rich. Oh, I'm love. Like there's a lot of work you have to do, a lot of shadow work, a lot of grounding, And that's the part where a lot of people don't see, right?
Yeah. In my opinion, before you manifest money, you need to conquer thyself and your demons. So, a lot of the conversations you're mentioning with your husband, it's so funny. It's exactly why we started the Jen Explains podcast. So I'm the mystic and my husband is the skeptic. We play it up like we're so different. We're so black and white. But really, we are very similar. It's just we have these two little things that we don't have in common. But then it seems like a big deal to people. Sometimes people are like, how can you be married to someone that always like challenges you and, doesn't believe in what you do? Ultimately, it's because he respects me and I respect him and we're willing to communicate with each other. And I realized that a lot of people in relationships have that dynamic. And then as part of an entrepreneur, if you're ever going to go into the podcasting business, you need to see who else is doing things in your niche. And I really tried to look and I could not find any podcast with two partners with opposing viewpoints on spirituality. Like to that degree, and especially first generation Mexican Americans. So I was like, wow, there is nobody in this niche. This niche is niche. We should go for it. Also, because a lot of our friends were like asking us the same questions, and low key, I love it. But at a certain point, it's like I've told this story for like the 30th time. So I was like, or my husband, he really pushes me because, like I said, I've had to struggle with a lot of imposter syndrome. He's like, babe, let's do it. It's our passion project. Again, we're not going to go into this for the money. This is for the love of the game and a marathon, a long haul. The average entertainer has to be in the industry for 10 years before they really like pop off and start to make money. So it is a marathon. And so he really encouraged me. He's like, don't be afraid of the haters. Don't be afraid of the what if. It's a learning journey. And ultimately, it's us. And if someone doesn't want to listen to us, they could listen to another podcast. Like, they don't have to listen to us. But yeah, he's really the wind beneath my wings. And that's why we're 130 plus episodes later.
Yeah, I love it. Since I started listening to you both, I was like, they work together really well. They're doing great. Different topics. I encourage you guys to listen to her podcasts. Both of them are great. I'm just driving and I'm like, okay, I like that. I do have a couple fun questions.
Sure.
Okay. Like in regards to like, either astrology or tarot. Are there any people that are like kind of energy vampires or like that they keep coming back and you're like, I have to, put my foot down, and for your mental health, it's best if you like keep reaching out, for your own good?
Yeah, I would say so. I think that I have had a few clients that I've had to say like ethically, you're coming too often. And at this point, you're creating dependency. And that's the opposite of what I want. This is how you can tell sort of like who is more of like a grifter, scammer, ego driven versus like someone who actually cares about the craft, is that they want to see you fly on your own. Some people are happy to take your money and be like the psychic, hotlines in general, not naming a particular one, for example, but some of them are like, yeah, call as often as you want. I don't care. Versus if I see someone reaching out too often, it's like, I don't want you to be dependent on me. You are the expert and the author of your own life. I am just here to redirect you and guide you when you truly feel lost. But you're reaching out to me like ChatGPT. That's not going to work. And you're not going to be able to afford it. So I've definitely had to tell people, like, let's cut back to maybe once a month, maybe every 2 weeks if you're working on a project. So I definitely have those limits. But then in terms of friends, I've definitely had some friends that I have felt like, a friendship is a give and take, not tit for tat, not that it needs to be 50-50 or matched, but I really realized that the scales were really outweighed. And it's like, you never ask me how I'm doing. When I need a favor, you never show up, but then I always have to be there for you as soon as you call me at 3 a.m. So I've definitely had those experiences both in professional life and then personal life.
Would you say it's hard to keep that balance? Like, I would assume, maybe from personal experience, once you're like your friends or family members, they know you do certain practices, they may take advantage of that.
It's so funny. They actually don't. If anything, I'm like, I got you. And they're like, no, I'm too scared. Or like, no, I want to respect your time. So actually, no, I don't deal with that in the personal life. And it's so funny. People always ask David, they're like, oh my God, you probably like get your cards read every morning over a morning coffee. Or like, you're so lucky she could give you your daily forecast. And he's like, hell no. I don't do that. I think only twice in our almost 11 years together has he ever seriously asked me, like, what the hell is going on in the stars? Because he has a psych background. If you listen to the podcast, he graduated from San Francisco State University with a degree in psychology. He worked in emergency mental health for like 6-ish years. Now he works in tech. But yeah, he is definitely more, I respect what you do, but I don't have to believe necessarily in what you do. But the one thing that he will always stand 10 toes down on is that I do it with integrity. He's like, I always see you studying, even if I think you're studying unicorn dust, like you're always studying. I see the amount of energy that you put in, like to your clients. The few clients that hire me for spell work, sometimes it's like the right window is between like 1 and 3 a.m. So I'm over there like over this candle chanting, doing all the things, and I'm like freaking exhausted the next day. But he's like, all this fairy make-believe shit you do, like, he doesn't say it like that, I'm just dramatic. He's like, all of this stuff that I don't believe in, at least you do it with integrity and I can respect that.
Aww. That's so sweet.
He is the best and I'm so lucky to be married to him.
I love that. I love.
Yes. Congratulations on your recent engagement.
Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you so much. Just super grateful with everything. But you mentioned a little bit about, I don't think I've ever asked anyone, the whole thing with ChatGPT and AI. I'm like, do we want to get in a lot of people use it as like guidance, right? Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on using perhaps technology as spiritual guidance?
So ChatGPT is not a search engine. It is a language learning model that learns how to respond to certain things in predictable patterns. So if you type in jump, most likely in English, the next phrase is how high, right? Things like that, or like knock, knock. Who's there? It learns predictable patterns of speech and throws them right back at you by user input, because it takes what you put into ChatGPT and aggregates it, or by scraping the internet. So if you type in, I am a Leo sun and a Libra moon and a Libra rising, what does this mean for me? All it's going to do is take conversations of previous users in aggregate or scrape the internet for stuff. And sometimes it can tell you something that you feel like you resonate with and you're like, whoa. Hot take, I don't think it's actually the worst when you're getting started, but if you take this seriously, you'll very quickly realize that it has its limitations. And if you are going to use the internet, I would rather that you go to like a website or an astrologer's Instagram or something and learn that way than just a language learning model that could be saying gibberish to you. So, for example, in the legal field, when people didn't understand the ramifications of language learning models and AI, there were some attorneys, not at our firm, but just attorneys in general, that would be like, write me a case brief about blah, blah, blah. And it would cite fake cases. And the judges would be like, this case, this precedent doesn't exist. And ultimately, it's just trying to tell you what you want to hear. There's a good South Park episode about it where Randy gets too dependent on ChatGPT, and then his wife, I think her name is Susan, she's like, let me see how much of a kiss ass this is. And she's like, are French fries salad? Because I think they are. And then ChatGPT is like, absolutely, you're so brilliant. French fries are salad. Such a brave take, you know? That's basically what it's going to do to you, versus if you study it yourself or if you go to someone, it's not just going to say something random or tell you what you want to hear.
That's interesting.
I just worry about people getting dependent on it. And there's an old ancient episode of like the Twilight Zone where someone couldn't make a simple decision like, what do I eat, what do I wear, without consulting like the little put in a quarter fortune teller type of machine. Or I think there was a king, correct me if I'm wrong, I want to say like Alexander the Great or like some notorious emperor that got so spiritually delusional that he couldn't make a decision without divination. Honestly, just because I know this, I don't look up every single thing, or I don't consult the tarot, or I don't consult the stars for every single thing I'm doing. You still have to live life and have that confidence, that internal locus of control that I am going to make the best decisions for my life, and I'm going to keep myself happy and safe and sane. And if I make a mistake, I'll learn from it and I can bounce back. So I just get a little concerned just because what is the source material? It's just scraping the internet and it's taking users' inputs into aggregate. So I don't think that ChatGPT or any other language learning model has spiritual potential, in my opinion, because when you look at the source, what is it tapping into? Versus like when I use the tarot or when I look at, astrology, like these are great tools, but the magic is in our conversation. Like you can see me and I can see you. And when you have a guide, a practitioner, they can really see you, your energy, your potential, and help you sort of like reframe your subconscious in a different way where it's like, I had all of these pieces, but I never looked at it that way. That's literally a quote that one of my clients told me. She's like, you just reorganized my subconscious and now things make sense.
That I may go off a little off track, but that makes me think I don't have a lot of knowledge on, but like aliens. You know, I don't know why I'm connecting both of them, but I've had certain encounters where I'm like, I like I said, I don't have enough knowledge on it, but that I question. One time, I'm briefly gonna and see what you think. We were here at this shop. It's old, super, super old. We were cleaning the shop. There was an insect like about this big. And I was like, I've never seen this. It's probably, from the country, whatever. I took a picture on ChatGPT, and the first thing is that it's an alien.
Oh my God.
And I'm like,
wow.
Why would it answer? I've never talked to you about aliens. That's not a particular interest of mine or something I've gone into depth. Very, very weird encounter. It's a robot, it's a computer, whatever. But how do we know they're not connected to?
Interesting. Do I think there's other life forms? Absolutely. It would be arrogant to be like, we're special and we're the only ones that like made the most of the Big Bang, I definitely think that there is life out there, whether it's like intelligent life trying to manipulate us, that I don't know. But there's definitely at least like protozoa, bacteria, maybe even other carbon or something else, sophisticated life forms. But this is my saying always, mundane before metaphysical, or mundane before magical. So back in the ancient times, for example, people thought that the sun wouldn't rise unless you sacrifice someone, or that if someone had albinoism, that they were cursed. So sometimes magic, or what people explain as magic, is just stuff that science hasn't caught up to yet. So now that we are in 2026, we still have a lot more to learn about how the universe works, but we have certainly learned a lot. So I just caution us to jump into metaphysical, magical thinking without truly grounding ourselves and being like, is there a logical explanation for this? And then sometimes when I'm in these spaces, I don't know, people are sometimes surprised by this take because they're like, I thought you were like witchy. And it's like, yeah, we play it up for the cameras, but like I said, my husband and I are more aligned than not. There's just certain things, like, again, understand as far as science takes us, but once we get to that edge of like, science has not studied this yet, where does that go? And David is more like, science just hasn't caught up and shit happens and we'll learn about it later, versus me, I'm like, let's explore and see if there's any interconnectedness through the power of like psychology and tarot, or through pattern prediction through astrology. So I guess I would challenge you with this bug of like, you put it in a language learning model. I don't know if you've had conversations with this learning model before about astrology, tarot, anything metaphysical, but it would learn you about you as a person and be like, oh, she would probably be interested in aliens. Let me just throw that out there. Versus if you submitted that picture to a local farmers group or a local like sciencey group in the 209, they could be like, oh, that's that bug. Or if you even submitted that picture to Google reverse image search and been like, what bug is this? Or even Reddit. There are so many like amazing nerds on Reddit that there is a subreddit, what bug is this? Yeah. And someone could tell you. So I guess I would just challenge you there.
Yeah, totally. Like I said, it was just, I knew, I was like, it's some sort of bug. It's just the reaction that it gave me. I was like, okay, I wasn't going there, but since you want to bring it up, kind of to wrap it up, what do you think is the most fulfilling out of all of this? Whether it's your job, your 9 to 5, or your other practices.
Yeah, I've always been called, since I was a little kid, obviously from everything I shared before, to be of service. And you know, I've definitely had some dark times where I didn't remember my power. And then sometimes I had people in my corner believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself. And now I want to return the favor. And I've learned how to believe in myself now. For the most part, it's always a work in progress. But it's really fulfilling, whether it's through our podcast, you know, in this free message energy exchange form of like, I believe in you to think critically, make the best choices for yourself, to do your own research. When it comes to podcasting, when we consult with people, it's like, I believe in you to make this work. Let's just ask some clarifying questions about the direction you're trying to go in. Or in the spiritual work of like, I believe in you to make the best decisions for your life. Let's just talk about a game plan, windows, things like that. I love seeing people blossom into who they are. And it's like, that's so beautiful, because I've definitely had times where I didn't believe in myself. Sometimes I had people in my corner, sometimes I didn't. And I just want people to know that they're not alone if they don't conform to society, because I thought by leaving the church, by questioning religion, by doing my own thing, that nobody would accept me and I would like not have any friends and not be able to fit into society, never find a job. But I've realized that when you carry yourself with that self-esteem, that power of like, I am who I am and I'm not going to dictate what you do, but I'm going to do me, and I'm, you know, special and beautiful in my own way. You know, I love to see people go from this introverted place to this like extroverted place. I have a client that I'm very, very proud of. She went from very anxious, not using her degree, to now finally being like, I'm no longer afraid to apply for jobs and being like, yeah, I took a mental health break, but I'm here now and this is why you should hire me. So fingers crossed that she gets a job soon. But there are some cases like that. Or I did long-term work with an older person who was trying to make the decision whether or not they should break up with their business partner that was like really abusive and stealing from them. And it took 2 years. And it got to a certain point where I was like, I can't tell you anything that we haven't already discussed over the past 2 years. But if you want to keep coming back and just processing, I'll hold space for your feelings. And then on our last session, they were like, I did it. I finally got rid of that toxic business partner and I'm going to expand my business on my own. So the most fulfilling part to me is to have people grow into who they are, because again, I'm not going to save you. I'm not the second coming. I'm not the Messiah. I'm just someone that has lived life and seen a lot, and I want to be your cheerleader. Again, whether you find comfort in our podcast, in our workshops through the Kythera Collective, in my horoscopes, or in one-on-one sessions, like I just want to support as many people as I can and remind them of their power. That is my purpose. That is the purpose of me and Kythera Collective LLC.
I love that. Thank you so much, Jen. It was an honor to have you. You radiate what you speak.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm like, she's very encouraging, and your energy is like up there. So I want to appreciate you for coming and, having some conversations around these issues. I don't have a lot of people that I take time to just chat and understand and learn. Yeah. I'm excited to see the growth, and I encourage everyone to follow her social media, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, right?
Yeah. So Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, pretty much everything at Gen Kahlo. My Facebook is the only thing that's different. That's Kythera Collective LLC. Website is genkahlo.com. You can find our podcast on Spotify. Spotify has an audio video format. Apple Podcast has audio. I heard they're going to release video soon, but they're still working on that. And then YouTube has a lot of our episodes, but formatting from podcast to like YouTube format takes some time. So I would say we have about like 70% of our episodes there if YouTube is easier for you. I'm proud of you for putting yourself out there. Something that David and I always talk about. People are like, everybody has a podcast, but it's like, who do you really know in your immediate circle that actually has a podcast? Not that many people, yes. Which is why this is the first time that I'm a guest on someone's podcast, which it was so fun. It was such an honor. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing space.
Of course, anytime you're welcome to come. Anytime, we're part of the same community. So, hang out and connect with others. I'd like to say our community needs it, especially Merced, very small, not a lot of people publicly, speak on these type of topics. And I think it's fun. It's, it's fulfilling, even for myself. I'm like, why am I doing this? And I'm like, I love people. That's it. Yeah. I don't have a lot of knowledge yet, but what I do have, I'd love for others to know too. And I'm excited to see where these podcasts go. It's funny, like my mom's like, oh, back then we used to listen to the radio on our way to work. I'm like, let's bring that back.
Oh my God, that is such a deep cut. Sorry, I know you're trying to wrap this up, but some of my original inspirations, especially as a Los Angeles kid, I would listen a lot to the radio before we had like readily accessible internet and stuff. Like I love talk shows. Specifically, I love Love Line with Dr. Drew on K-Rock. Like I had a little radio and I would just listen to that late at night, listen to people sharing about their problems. And yeah, all the hosts were like, I'm just a person with a different perspective and maybe this helps.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Jen. We're going to have all her social media on the bottom so you guys can connect with her. I don't have a lot of followers, but I do have some loyal listeners that, you know, continuously come, and I would love for them to check out your stuff. Like I said, I think our beliefs are pretty aligned, you know. I don't feel like you're egoist.
Oh,
You're very much love-filled, and thank you again for coming, and hope to have you back pretty soon.
absolutely. Thank you. Okay, bye.
Bye, guys.